Good Thursday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Chris Harabsky. A top story today. If you walk outside, you're going to notice that we are dealing with hazardous air quality here in the Twin Cities. Something that's never happened before this badly in our region. It's causing the cancellation of several events, including the Target USA Cup in Blaine, the Maple Grove Days Parade, all outdoor activities through the Minneapolis Park and Rec Department. We got a list of impacted events right now at kare11.com. All that smoke coming from several raging wildfires up north. Right now, crews are battling 15 fires, 4 of them inside the Boundary Waters Canoe Wilderness area. Take a look at where the fires are burning and the areas that are now under evacuation. All these areas in red have been evacuated, including parts of Lake and St. Louis counties. Officials say the wildfires have now burned more than 54 square miles in the Boundary Waters, with the Forest Service calling these the most widespread and extreme fire conditions the area has seen more than 20 years. Firefighters continue to work under hot, dry, windy conditions with the help from the National Guard. You can see in the video Guard members working to drop water and get the fires, trying to circumvent, get them under control. Meantime, thousands have been evacuated from the Boundary Waters, including 2 YMCA camper groups who are in the Canadian backcountry.
The last 24 hours are pretty rough. Just as a parent, and you can hear, your kids are safe, or they're hunkered down and they're out of harm's way, but you don't really know.
Governor Walz and the Executive Council extending a peacetime emergency to keep those troops around through the fall. A sign officials expect it could take months to get the wildfires under control. It's the same story up in Canada right now, with officials tracking more than 100 wildfires across that nation. Take a look at the screen. The areas being hit the hardest: Ontario, Quebec, Western Canada. The smoke from the flames creating hazy skies across the country. This is video from Toronto, which had the worst air quality in the world yesterday. Right now, Toronto ranks 3rd. Officials say conditions are expected to gradually get better throughout the day. A little further south, Niagara Falls, unrecognizable in the haze. This is from the Canadian side of the falls. Smoke so thick you can't see the rushing water down the side of the cliff there. And as we deal with wildfires and bad air quality here, down south, parts of Texas are bracing for another day of flash flood warnings. Already, torrential rain has triggered multiple flash flood emergencies there. This video from Zavala County Sheriff's Office. You can see the river breached its banks, easily covering nearby roads, making them impassable. Meanwhile, officials say neighborhoods in nearby Uvalde, which you'll remember that town, are only accessible by helicopter after they got around 20 inches of rain over the past 72 hours. Then you take a look at this terrifying video. This is a tornado touching down and moving past drivers during yesterday morning's commute in San Antonio. Look at that thing coming right at the interstate. Flashes of light and what looks like debris swirling in the sky there. The woman who shot this in the video says the tornado got bigger after it passed over the highway. Wow. Right now, residents at a fast deteriorating housing complex in Minneapolis looking to what's next as the city looks to fix massive issues with mold, leaks, and infestations. Now, Minneapolis leaders are proposing allocating $2.5 million to help them. Here's Raya Katani.
During this hot and hazy stretch, what's becoming more clear are the problems at this mixed-income housing complex in North Minneapolis.
They just don't do anything here. There's not a lot of maintenance people.
And it's not just regular maintenance that's lacking, according to some of the people who live at Heritage Park.
One of the pipes was busted and started to leak through my ceiling somehow.
Last winter, the corner 2 units in that building, they were flooded with water, and the water was just dripping and then froze, and it was basically a frozen waterfall from a 2nd floor down to the 1st floor.
They had a really bad roach infestation, really bad. There was hundreds of them in the basement. It was so nasty, oh my goodness.
I have a heavy heart being in front of you today about what we're asking for.
On Tuesday, city officials asked the Minneapolis City Council to consider moving $2.5 million from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to address the problems at Heritage Park. Although the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority owns the land, the housing complex was owned by McCormack Barron Management until last year. The city says a court-appointed third party recently took it over and found mold in most of the units.
The conditions at Heritage Park are to a point where we need to decouple the people who are living there and the property conditions.
Many of the units are empty, but the city says this money would mainly be used to help move the 685 tenants elsewhere as they figure out a long-term plan for the development.
It is a process that the city will have to stand up, almost akin to an emergency response that we had to the Annunciation shooting or the Operation Metro Surge response.
How soon people would be moved or what will happen to the property is still unclear.
Just gotta hope for the best.
As people here hope more answers soon come to light. In Minneapolis, Rai Katene, Kare 11 News.
Right now, families are demanding answers as 2 Lino Lakes prison units are without air conditioning.
It seems like the inmates in there are not being treated like they're humans, and these are human beings. These are loved ones that we have. These are fellow people that will be back out in our community. So how are we treating them?
The Department of Corrections says their air conditioning system is too small to cool the entire prison effectively in this extreme heat. They say they're using large industrial fans to improve circulation. DOC says 336 inmates are impacted, a little less than a third of the prison's population. Developing right now, Ramsey County officials are suing the Department of Homeland Security to conduct their own investigation into this incident during Operation Metro Surge. This is video from January of ICE agents detaining Chong Lee Scott Tao, dragging him outside in his underwear in frigid temperatures. Ramsey County officials say Tao is a U.S. citizen and he didn't have any warrants.
I don't think there's a question that there was a law broken. I mean, at the minimum, this is conduct unbecoming of an officer of the court. At a maximum, it's some form of false imprisonment or kidnapping. It all depends on what the intent was, what the motive was, what they did during that hour.
In a statement, Homeland Security called the lawsuit a political stunt and say the agents were executing a warrant looking for a sexual predator, and Tao refused to be fingerprinted or have his face scanned, so they held him for what they call the safety of the public. Right now, St. Paul is looking to rename Cesar Chavez Street. The Westside Community Organization is asking for suggestions on what to rename the almost 1 mile stretch. Tomorrow, the group's going to hold the first of 3 community listening sessions with a goal of renaming the street later this year. The street was named after Chavez in 2004, but officials are looking to change it after recent allegations of sexual abuse against the prominent Latino civil rights leader. Right now, Farmington police are looking for the driver that hit and killed a 13-year-old before driving off. It happened at Highway 50 and Duchesne Parkway just before 10 last night. Police say the boy and a friend were crossing the street on their bikes when an SUV hit them in the westbound lane. Bystanders and first responders, they tried to save the boy, but he died. Farmington police say they're looking for a black 2008 to 2011 Ford Focus with front-end damage and a missing passenger mirror. A political bombshell in Minnesota this week when President Trump surprisingly announced he is endorsing Mike Lindell of MyPillow in the Republican primary for governor in the state of Minnesota. Trump's endorsement in a primary is huge, as whoever he gives his backing to has won 97% of the time in that party's primary. Here's Danny Spiewak.
President Trump injected himself into the Minnesota governor's race on Wednesday with his endorsement of Mike Lindell, calling the MyPillow founder one of America's greatest and most hardworking patriots.
But I didn't ask him for his endorsement, and I didn't want his endorsement based on our friendship. I wanted him to endorse me based on merit.
Lindell is a longtime ally of Trump who has faced litigation from voting machine companies over his unproven claims about the 2020 election results.
For voters, to be clear, do you still believe the 2020 election was stolen from President Trump?
100% it was.
Trump's endorsement comes less than a month before the August 11th GOP primary for governor, when Lindell will compete against House Speaker Lisa Demuth and the state party's endorsed candidate Kendall Qualls. After missing out on the president's endorsement, Demuth praised Trump's policies, but said she's laser focused on winning the primary, while Qualls called on voters to respect the delegates who endorsed him at the state party convention in May.
Except in a few cases this election cycle, the endorsement for from the president has been a win for the primary.
But Republican strategist Amy Frederickson says Trump's support could be a liability for Lindell in a general election, given that Trump lost Minnesota in all 3 of his presidential runs.
That's the trick, right? That has not, in general, in Minnesota been a good thing.
According to a Kare 11 Star Tribune U of M poll last month, Lindell trails presumptive DFL governor nominee Amy Klobuchar by 17 points in a hypothetical matchup. In a brief statement, Klobuchar said, "Mike Lindell is Donald Trump's choice. I hope to be Minnesota's." Meanwhile, even Minnesota GOP Chair Alex Plekish urged Republican voters to choose another nominee.
Minnesota Republican leadership in the state says that you're not electable. The party released a statement saying that you have serious financial baggage, public records showing tens of thousands of dollars in delinquent property taxes, significant electability concerns. What do you make of that response from the state party?
Well, they're just a uniparty attack by Alex, the head of our GOP here in Minnesota. We've got to get rid of. I'm going to put out a whole statement I have ready here. We're going to do that press release in about 15 minutes, where I'll give you a full statement. But shame on him and shame on that party.
The Minnesota DFL, meanwhile, released a statement saying, quote, "Mike Lindell is Minnesota's election-denying Trump clone. We look forward to holding them both accountable in November," end quote. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.